Good evening, everyone. I see the time is 5:30 p.m. It's Monday, October 20th, and I'd like to call this regular council meeting of the Harrison Hot Springs Village Council to order. I'd like to start by acknowledging that this meeting takes place on the traditional territory of the Stahelas. There's no public hearing scheduled this evening. Are there any late items to introduce this evening? I don't see any late items to introduce. I'll move to agenda item 5, approval of agenda, and CEO Cook has a comment to make.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Council has been advised already, however, the public has not. Just advising that staff is requesting that the report 15D be removed from this agenda because we have recently received a new site plan from the developer, which unfortunately was an error on his part. However, and the changes are too sweeping to just amend the application on the fly. So we're requesting that council consider removing item 15D from the agenda. Thank you.
Could I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. All in favor of removing item 15D this evening, and that carries. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on that. Call the vote. All in favor, and we have an agenda approved as amended. Declarations of conflict of interest this evening. Seeing none, I'll move to 7 on our agenda, adoption of council meetings. Could I have a motion to read in the A, B, and C? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on the motion to adopt these and receive these minutes. Moved already and seconded, I believe. Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and those minutes have been adopted and received. Item 8 on our agenda, business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, I'll move to item 9, delegations and petitions. No delegations scheduled this evening, which takes us to 10, correspondence. Could I have a motion to receive the correspondence? Moved by Councillor Schweinbenz, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor of receiving the correspondence, and that carries. Which takes us to 11 on our agenda, business arising from correspondence. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I'm going to refer to correspondence C, page 25, an email from the Agassiz Harrison Historical Society. This is a very big project that they're undertaking, and certainly will be a benefit to both communities when it's completed. They are requesting a letter of support for grant funders. So I will make a motion to provide that letter of support as requested by the Agassiz Harrison Historical Society.
A motion to send a letter of support by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Any discussion on the motion? I too think it's a good idea, and I'll call the vote. All in favor, and we'll send a letter of support. Any other business arising from the correspondence? Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, and thank you, Councillor Vital, for that motion about the museum. It's going through a lot of changes, and I think a letter of support would be very helpful for them to get new grants. There is a letter from Mr. Webster with regards to the WDPA boundaries of which his property is on, and I think there's quite a few along McCombs that are also on the WDPA. And through you to staff, is there anything
Are there any other different burdens placed on these properties that we as council should be concerned about, whether it be, as indicated, increased insurance costs or perhaps other difficulties that they might have building or developing their lands? Is there anything that we should be responding to in this letter?
Thank you, Councillor Swinebens. I look to staff, CAO Cook.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Swinebens. I can't speak to the implications from an insurance perspective. That would be on the property owners to investigate themselves. However, if there was a property that was within the DPA and it wanted to redevelop, it would need to meet the requirements under that DPA. But that's about all from that perspective. Now, I do recognize that there are a few properties that are in, a few that are out, but it all has to do with the interface. It's across the street, of course, with the Crown land that is there. But I will defer to our manager of community services to maybe explain a little bit further if there's any further implications from a FireSmart perspective, perhaps.
Thank you, CEO. Community Services Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. So that is correct that a wildfire development permit area aligns closely with FireSmart's principles. So there isn't any research to suggest that being in a wildfire DPA has an immediate impact on homeowners insurance or anything of the sort, but as Tyson just mentioned, it's more for any upgrades to the homes in that area that are included in that DPA as being identified as at a higher risk of wildfire due to the proximity to the interface. So it's not developed as a way to make changes in the interface. It's sort of just recognizing that the forested lands are there, and as homes are built closer to the interface, needing to recognize that and build homes to a higher FireSmart material standard.
Thank you, Community Services Manager. Councillor Swinebens.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, and thank you, staff, for the answers. I just want to make note that there's a lot of courses that I've noticed in the last couple of months, courses at universities and colleges and even days-long seminars about this wildfire interface. And maybe it's an opportunity for staff or for even residents or council to update themselves on the new thinking and the new technologies around interface properties with regards to wildfires. So it's a good reminder for us also to make sure we clean out our gutters and get the WildSmart officer in to check out your property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebens. On the same piece of correspondence, I know Mr. Webster requested it be included in our agenda package and also requested a response to a couple questions. Have these questions been responded to by staff or the administration yet?
Not at this time, no.
Well, like all correspondence, I think we'll probably, do we formally need a motion to respond? It's standard operating or administrative procedures to respond to correspondence, so that'll be taken care of in due course. Thank you. And the response, because I myself would like some clarification about some of the things put in here between the wildfire development permit areas and other types of things. So if that response, when it's developed up, it could be shared with myself and the rest of council, we might all benefit from that. Any further discussion on correspondence? Seeing none, I will move to item 12 on our agenda, which is reports from councillors. Who would like to begin? Councillor Vital, it looks like it's you starting us off tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. October 7th, I did attend the OCP open house held here at Memorial Hall. October 16th, I attended the Agassiz Harrison Healthy Communities. Some highlights from that meeting. There has been an increase in student enrollment. Just to let our residents know that influenza and COVID vaccinations are now available at the pharmacies. The TAPS program is now available at Community Services. This is a day program for seniors, and it's being held 3 times a week. Please contact Community Services for more information and registration. Also, registration for the Christmas hampers has started. Once again, please contact Community Services for more information. And November 4th, the Community Services Seniors Lunch will be held here in Harrison. It is a very, very popular event. I don't know if they're full as of yet, but again, once contact Community Services. Our Lights by the Lake opening ceremonies are scheduled for November 22nd. It's always a very, very well-attended event and helps us bring in the holiday season. There will be more details coming. Also on October 16th, I attended a Lower Mainland Local Government Executive meeting. Next week, the senior executive, including myself, will be in Victoria to meet with some cabinet ministers to continue the advocacy work for the membership. And I'll provide an update at our next council meeting. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I attended the open house. However, the other day we had our All About Communities in Bloom meeting. We went over our successes and what we're going to do for the next year. I'm pleased to say that at our next Communities in Bloom meeting, the Mayor of Hope, along with Teresa, will be coming to our meeting. So any council are certainly invited to come and meet them. And we're going to plan again and find out what all their success is about so we can make 2026 a real banner year for Communities in Bloom. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Swymans.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I attended 3 things in the last couple of weeks. The first one was on the 15th, the Agassiz Harrison Historical Society. And, that society's made great strides in the last year and a half. They've got a new manager named Maria Martins, who actually was a delegate here a few months ago. And she's brought up some fantastic changes, including they've got all new window blinds throughout the interior. We're doing some painting. They're getting the whole gallery repainted, which is quite a job because you've got to take off all the static displays off of the walls. That's happening in January, so the spring it'll have a nice facelift. Memorial benches are redone, and signage on that building is going to be redone. So as you drive by in the next few weeks, you'll see some changes. And also, we've got the speeder restoration is complete. The speeder is over 100 years old, and I think back in the day, Mayor Tallon, the doctor used to come in from Mission to Agassiz to deliver babies and to deliver health care on this little motorized speedster. And if you look at the museum today, you'll see it's a little orange vehicle that goes on the track. And our very own Harrison resident, Mark Ferraro, was charged with restoring it, and Mark has it all done. He had to do a lot of woodwork, electrical refitting, and metal work and welding, and he's got that all done. So congratulations to Mark and to the museum. 2 weeks ago, I was asked to sit on the board of the Fraser Valley Food Sustainable Network program, and it was the very next day actually, so it was good timing. This is a fantastic group. I'm looking forward to getting to know their mandate better, but it's all about sustainability and education and encouraging healthier eating and better food security. As an aside, I was in Italy a few weeks ago, and they have a rule in Italy. The cities have to get 70% of all their food from their region. So I was in Florence. 70% of all their food has to come from the Tuscany region, and I think 90% has to come from Italy. So politicians maybe in the future can have a mandate to try to encourage better, more sustainable agriculture and better, healthier eating for people. I think we have the ability to become a blue zone here in the valley, and I think I've mentioned that before. Also, this past Saturday, I wanted to thank the Environmental Committee. We hosted our very first hazardous waste collection day for the community. We had just under 100 homes participate. We filled up, not quite filled up, but almost filled 5 large bins of paints and solvents and pesticides and herbicides that people wanted to get rid of. I think there's room to grow on this. Perhaps we're going to reconvene and see how we can do it better next time. I wanted to thank the committee for taking this on and thanking the staff for their help with the logistics, particularly Christy. And wanted to thank Susan Galvo. She spent the whole day in organizing this and spent the whole day collecting all this waste from people. And she did some good baked goods as well for us. So that kept us nice and warm and fed. And I wanted to thank Johnny DeMartin for also spending the day in the cold and rain under a tent collecting all these. In fact, Johnny not only did that all day, but before his shift at 8 o'clock in the morning, he was one of the guys that helped capture a duck that was wounded on the lagoon. And so I wanted to thank Johnny for that. And on that note, on Friday and Saturday, a bunch of people, including myself, including Mr. Allen and Jan and Kelly, and I'm missing a whole bunch of people, but they had 4 kayaks out on the lagoon trying to corral this wounded duck. And in the end, it took a couple of days, but on the Saturday, they got the duck and were able to disentangle it from a whole bunch of landscape mesh that its wing and its neck was wrapped around. So I wanted to thank the community for coming together and helping that duck out. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swinevins. Item 13 on our agenda is reports from Mayor. On October 7th, I attended a parent advisory committee meeting over at the school and talked about their challenges and what's happening at the school. It was a good meeting. Happy to sit in on that for a little bit on October 7th. I attended an environment committee meeting as they got organized for the hazardous waste drop-off on Saturday. It's good to see that committee in action. I assisted with the stream keepers in planting some trees with village staff near the McCombs Bridge over the Miami River. So if you don't like where they are, that's probably, I put them in the wrong place. No, we had good help, and our village staff kept us on the straight and narrow, and we planted, I think, several hundred trees and reclaiming that area after construction earlier this year. On the 14th, I attended a Harrison Agassiz Chamber of Commerce meeting. And on the 16th, I attended the Agassiz Harrison Community Services board meeting, a good board meeting with new members on the board and looking ahead to the future and looking at really important things, very affirming meeting in my view, where they're looking at their strategic plan for the next 5 years. So I was really privileged to be there for that. I also I chaired an age-friendly committee meeting on the 16th as well in the afternoon. On the 17th, I, along with many staff, attended a cultural capacity session at Seabird Island, hosted by a number of experts in that area. So I think that's phase 1 or session 1 of 3, so 2 more to go. And on the 18th, I was very happy to receive an invitation to attend the Yacht Club Gala. And my wife and I had a lovely time. The band Rockwell played. It was full. It was an absolutely well-organized, wonderful evening by the Yacht Club. And that's my whole report, which takes us to item 14, reports and minutes from committees and commissions. There's a motion here or recommendation that the following minutes be received for information. Can I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbens. Discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Takes us to item 15 on our agenda, and I will turn this over to item A to our Director of Operations. There you are.
Thank you. The attached Parks and Trails Master Plan is being presented this evening for Council's consideration and adoption. This plan is intended to guide how we improve, manage, and expand our parks and trails over the next 15 years. This will be a strategic document that reflects our commitment to long-term planning and continuous improvement. It's also designed to be flexible with the ability to adapt as community needs and opportunities evolve. The development of this plan was shaped by 2 rounds of public engagement led by our consultants. The first round last fall helped us understand how residents use parks and trails and also what barriers they face. The second round earlier this year focused on refining the draft goals and recommendations. The draft plan was then presented to Council at a Committee of the Whole meeting in June. At that time, engagement with Stehalis was still underway. Since then, updates have been added to align the goals and potential partnership opportunities. So if this plan is adopted, staff will start working towards the implementation of the plan, which will focus on 7 key goals. Goal 1 would be enhance the village's capacity to manage parks, trails, and park amenities. Goal 2 be to develop management practices that enhance environmental integrity and improve maintenance efficiency. 3, facilitate easy navigation of parks and trails. 4, expand the village's park system. 5, improve the quality, diversity, and accessibility of park amenities. 6, improve the quality, connectedness, and accessibility of the village's trail network. And Goal 7, promote active transportation. Each of these goals have recommendations that would be associated with each one. To implement these goals, the financial considerations is a long-term commitment to invest in parks and trails. Any budgetary requests related to the plan will come before Council for consideration in future financial plans. So with that, the recommendation for Council this evening is that Council adopt the Parks and Trails Master Plan as a strategic document to guide the future enhancement, management, and development of parks and trails. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Operations. Could I have a motion moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz, as recommended here, that we adopt this master plan? Any discussion on the master plan? Or we have motion, we have seconder, discussion. Any discussion? Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. It's a huge document, and I wanted to thank all staff because I think everybody has their fingerprints on this. A lot of work went into this, and I really appreciate the fact that the community was involved, and their considerations and their comments and ideas were implemented in this plan. I'm looking forward. It's going to take 15 years or more, but I'm looking forward to, in future meetings, for this to be a guiding principle for us. I think it's fantastic that we've got something like this. If I look at all these goals, not to look at any of them in particular, but goal number 7, to promote active transportation, you know, that speaks to so many things, either with our feet or on wheels of any different type. It's amazing when you go to Europe to see all the different types of bicycles and mopeds and motorcycles and micro cars and all these really unique modes of transportation. And if we can improve our trails, I think it'll be fantastic. I also wanted to mention that, you know, there's a large and growing hiking community here. There's a large and growing adventure biking community here and street biking community here. And if we can sort of get our trails and transportation improved in our village, and I'd like to see it expanded to other communities as well. Wouldn't it be great, Mayor Talon, if we could bike or hike or walk or whatever over the Rosedale Bridge one day and get on that side of the river, or go to Agassiz without getting into our cars? So hopefully this will guide us, and I'm looking forward to implementing this in the next few years.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. I think it's a solid document. Certainly reflects what I heard at the public open houses, talking to people, and also sort of reflects what I see on a day-to-day basis in the village. So if there's no further discussion, I'll call oh, sorry, Councillor Vital, please.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Just a couple of comments. I particularly like the idea of being able to enhance the walkway over to Rendell Beach at the height of summer and boating season. It can be a pretty dangerous to kind of walk across over to Randall Beach. And another comment is that what I saw was this reoccurring theme coming out of our residents wanting an off-leash dog park. And I just want to assure our residents that we're working towards that. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes back by the way of feedback after the temporary dog park is completed for this season. And one other comment was the master plan makes reference to the outdoor equipment that's up above the washrooms on the beach. I don't know if they are maintained on a regular basis, but they certainly are, I think, nearing the end of their lifespan. The master plan puts that priority as low. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think removing that equipment and making better use of that space should be a higher priority. However, I will accept the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that passes. Item B on our report is Deputy Mayor rotation for 2026. How shall we kick this off? Anyone volunteering right off the bat to fill in some of these blanks or some suggestions? I saw Councillor Vital go first here. See if we can fill in these blanks tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I am happy to take the second rotation as I did last year. I would ask for consideration of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. I think we can pencil you in for May to August, and I'm looking to my left, Councillor Schweinbenz, Councillor Jackson. And does, I don't want to speak for Councillor Fascio in his absence, but if someone has spoken to him, corporate officer.
Thank you. Yes, I did contact Councillor Fascio in advance. He did indicate he was flexible, but would prefer the first January to April section, please.
Thank you, corporate officer. Councillor Schweinbenz.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Happy to volunteer as well. But
Does that work?
is that okay?
So with that, January to April, Councillor Fascio. May to August would be Councillor Vital, and September to early November, Councillor Schweinbenz. Could I have a motion to that effect for our deputy mayor? Do we need a motion for that? Yes, yes. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries. Thank you all for your willingness to step up and assume the mayor responsibility if I'm unable to. Item C under 15 is Community Services Manager, Starlight Skating Rink operations. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. This report is to provide an update to Council on the proposed Starlight Skating Rink operations for the 2025 to 2026 winter season. In the fall of 2024, the village went through a competitive bid process to seek applicants to operate the Starlight Skating Rink rentals and concession. Harrison Ecotours was the awarded proponent, and they began last November 8th. In 2024 to 2025, the rentals and concessions operated out of the CCAN located in the boat launch parking lot. Daily reports were maintained by the contractor and submitted on a weekly basis to the village, which helped shape the proposed schedule for this season. Earlier this year, construction was completed at the boat launch building, which now includes a concession space with a window opening for better ease of rentals and concession sales. This more visible space will be where the skate rentals and concessions operate this winter and moving forward. After a close review of last year's transactions, staff are proposing some shifts to the schedule, including a later start date to coincide with the kickoff of Lights by the Lake, and focusing on Saturdays and Sundays until the School District 78 is off for winter holidays. Limiting the hours will support controlling expenditures while focusing the open hours on the dates and times where rentals and sales were highest. In preliminary preparation for this report, we reached out to the contractor from last year, and they are also willing to be flexible on days of severe weather, and we would see a decreased rate on those days compared to the regular rate if for some reason they weren't able to operate. For the 2024 to 2025 winter season, through the RFP process, there was only one proposal submitted, which was from Harrison Eco Tours. Due to this, and given their past experience specific to the rink, staff don't feel it is of any benefit to the village to seek an additional 2 quotes at this time. The winter 2024 skate rental and concession revenue totaled $2,115, and the total operator expenses were $9,900. Limiting the hours, you'll see a smaller number than that reflected in the recommendation. So for council's discussion, the recommendation tonight is that Starlight Skating Rink operations for the 2025 to 2026 winter season be managed by Harrison Eco Tours with expenses not to exceed $7,200 plus GST.
Thank you, Community Services Manager. Could I have a motion to the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Schweinbenz, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Just have a few questions. You mentioned, through you to staff, you mentioned November the 22nd, I think, is the starting date. What is the proposed ending date? Are we going into March or February for the school closures? Or
Community Service Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. Similar to last year, the concession and rentals only went until the first weekend in January. However, the rink itself remained open until after the Family Day long weekend. So outside of those hours when the concession and skate rentals are available, the rink is available the same hours daily as our parks are open. Our staff still maintain it, so if anyone has their own skates and any residents, they're welcome to use it anytime outside of those windows as well.
Thank you, Community Service Manager.
and
Councillor Schweinbenz.
and we'll keep it there till the end of March. Then is that what you're thinking?
Community Services Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Our staff typically take it down after the Family Day weekend, so sort of mid-February.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Still more questions. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I get a report on, the Starlight Skating Rink? I think it had good intentions, but it's got some mixed reviews. And I'm just wondering, what is the general state of the physical panels now? Are they degrading at all with UV or with the skating activity itself? Do we have a few years of usability left with these with this rink?
Director of Operations, perhaps you can speak to this.
Thank you. Through you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Yes, they're in relatively good shape still. We do occasionally have to do repairs for wind damage and different damages that happen, but generally we still have life out of them, yes.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I know it's a small item, but I guess it's wise to give it a chance at that current location for another year. But I wonder, Mayor Talon, if we're missing out on an opportunity right beside us on Cedar Avenue. I see this as an underutilized avenue where we could put that rink and other activities in the future. I know that in the summer, during certain events, they've got kids painting. We closed down that road, have kids painting and different activities. And I really would like to see Cedar here beside us used for that rink at some point. I think it'd be great with some lights over this. We can create this as a pedestrian-only skating rink here. And I'd like to see us, if it doesn't work this year, or if we don't see a marked improvement on the amount of use that it gets, then maybe we should consider relocating it to a different location. And I think right beside us here at this hall would be a fantastic idea.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinitz. Any other discussion on Councillor Vital?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Just a small point, and through you to our Community Services Manager. I noticed that the rink would be closed Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and I'm wondering why you did not include New Year's Day in that. Thank you.
Community Service Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to Councillor Vital. Last year, when Harrison Eco Tours submitted their proposal, that was based on their availability days and what they felt they could staff. So again, on the 24th and 25th, for any residents or visitors who had their own skates, they could still use the rink. And then they were in support and had staff who were willing to work New Year's Day. So it was open and staffed last New Year's Day and would be their plan again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Community Services Manager. I noted in the report some enhanced signage directing people to where the rink is. And I think that might help as well to let people know it's there, because it might not be front of mind if you don't see it like that. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Takes us to item 16 on our agenda. Mr. Cossey, our planning consultant, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. The applicant is looking to rezone their lot from R2 residential 2 duplex to C2 neighborhood commercial. The application is required as the applicant wishes to set up a commercial operation to accommodate an Airbnb, a pottery studio, a tea room, and a small store. And in the next 2 pages, you can just see there's the location of the site under consideration. And located on the site is a single-family dwelling that was constructed in 1955 and is approximately 1.5 stories in height. The site is fully serviced and is approximately 1.403 acres in size. The current official community plan designation works for the proposed use, so they do not need to do an OCP amendment. They're also in the development permit area, greenhouse gas emissions development permit area, the geotech hazard area, and the interface wildfire development permit area. Whenever you change a zone from a residential to commercial lot, as with all the other issues, there are some impacts that are associated with it. So we've listed for you some of the economic impacts, some of the social impacts and environmental impacts, and some of the planning considerations associated with this change. Some of them being there's a community opposition, which happens all the time, infrastructure upgrades, increased traffic and noise, on-site parking, development permit area requirements, a drainage plan development, and access to the adjacent landlocked park. So what council's allowed us to do is refer the bylaw out and to host a public hearing. So what we've done now is on page 147 is we've summarized everything for council's consideration. As we all know, at the July 14th, 2025 regular council meeting, staff were directed to set up a public hearing and to refer the amendment to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit and the village's fire department. So what we've done is we've listed all of the comments off that we've received with the heading referral comments. The Ministry of Transportation requires a site plan and frontage plan to ensure that there is sufficient parking. This plan must show the ingress egress points for the proposed commercial development, and they require a drainage plan to ensure that there will be no drainage on the highway or on any future frontage or pedestrian areas. The fire department comments were that they can't provide any comment at this time. However, when the proposed building drawings are provided, they will be in a better position to provide their comments. Public hearing, even though we've received the minutes of the public hearing, any of the land use issues that are part of that are fair game as to whether or not council would like to include it or not include it into the amendment bylaw. Some of the issues that were looked at were parking, traffic, egress, and limiting the permitted commercial uses. The first three can be addressed, and we've set it up that they will be addressed before final reading is given to the bylaw. And then limiting the commercial use, we've just limited the Airbnb concept only. So because of that, we had to revise the amendment bylaw, which we'll get into in a bit. Under some of the other comments that we received, that there was, somebody had mentioned that this could be a precedent. And I'd just like to remind council that that is not true. As this is a discretionary power of council, it does not mean that council must approve any similar future applications. So with that, your worship, staff is recommending second reading of zoning amendment bylaw number 1228 be 2025 be rescinded, and that zoning amendment bylaw number 2028-2025 be given second reading as amended, and that consideration of third reading be deferred until the following information and studies have been provided, and they're listed A to G, and that includes surface drainage plan, the preparation of a site plan that shows all of the proposed buildings, the applicant entering in an arrangement that allows for public access to the adjacent landlocked park, and this must include the use of the statutory right-of-way, the applicant securing the required development permits for the greenhouse gas emissions, geotech area, and the interface wildfire development permit area, entering into a works and services agreement with the village to address any required off-site works, written proof from a qualified environmental professional regarding whether a provincial review of the riparian area regulations is required, and a set of drawings addressing the form and character of the proposed development as per section 4.2 of the village's OCP.
Is someone prepared to move that recommendation this evening? Councillor Jackson moves it, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion. Perhaps I'll start. There's a number of items that this, if this motion passes, that the proponents would have to see done, and it looks like getting technical experts and a fair bit of work and quite a bit of expense. When I look at the list A to G of the types of things that this recommendation would ask for, I'm not sure it's going to address sort of my misgivings or lack of comfort with the general notion of rezoning from R2 to commercial to C2 in an area that our OCP has as low density residential. And not a lot of comfort making those. It seems like, I don't want to characterize it in a negative way, but because anyone can ask for a zoning amendment, and that's their right and their prerogative. But it seems like, should this go ahead, it seems to open a door for, or invite others to, instead of looking at changes to the OCP when that comes up for official reviews or drive it through another process, just the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs, expanding into residential areas, where right now, as I understand it, that's restricted to commercial areas. It just seems like it's coming in through a back door when the actual way to address it more comprehensively would be looking at the zones in our official community plan and look at it from the top down and see what makes sense for the whole village, and looking at neighborhoods as a whole instead of one-offs. I certainly took away from the public hearing the passion that the proponents have for their concept and what they like to do, and I don't want to throw cold water on that passion, but this is a land use question to me. And I'm not sure that items A to G, once they're fleshed out and completed, if that's going to actually satisfy my more fundamental and underlying concern. Yeah, I'll stop there for now. Councillor Vital?
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I echo your concerns. I applaud the applicant for this rather unique concept of bringing Chinese culture. However, this would be considered spot zoning, and I have never been a favor of spot zoning. And given the amount of available commercial space that we do have in our commercial zones, I would encourage the applicants to investigate that avenue should they want to pursue the tea house. Therefore, I agree with Mayor Talon that to ask the applicants at their expense to satisfy the requirements on the recommendations, I think would bear a hardship, especially when I am not in favor of pursuing this any further. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Schweinbans.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Yeah, this one was a tough one, and there's some red flags for sure. And I'm not so sure that we have enough information to even make a decision, which speaks to the fact that I'm just not sure if there's been enough preparation done in terms of the details of all this. First of all, I just want to address the applicants. I was a small businessman as well, and I know how difficult these things can be, and I know how expensive these things can be. You're looking at several hundreds of thousands of dollars of reports that need to be required for geotechnical, for forest fires, for riparian habitats. And it would be exceedingly expensive for you to go through that with your business model that you have. I appreciate your sincerity, and I appreciate bringing the cultural aspects to our community. You're exactly the kind of people we need in our village. But I would caution you about pursuing this, because it's going to be exceedingly expensive for you and probably wouldn't be supported by the business plan that I've seen. I don't know all the details, but from what I gather, I'm not opposed to spot rezoning, especially in these lands. It's a huge land. It's a good opportunity, but I'm not in supportive of an unrestricted commercial upzoning for this land. I trust these folks, but I'm not so sure that in 10 years, if someone else comes and buys this land and it's deemed C2 commercial with no restrictions, we could have a 4-story hotel there and we don't want one, or something else that we don't want. So I would encourage the applicants, if what you really want is a guest house, an Airbnb with 6 units, like I think you mentioned, that's the cornerstone of what you're trying to do, then let's work with our planning staff to get that done. I think we'll be amenable to that. But for the unrestricted C2, I think it'd be exceedingly expensive for you, and I don't think you'd get support from council. And I wish you luck.
Any further comments, discussion on the motion? CAO Cook.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. I do apologize for the interruption. The one thing that that council needs to consider is whether the application perhaps is out of character for the area. So that's, we just want to make sure that we speak to that as well. There are land use issues that are in front of us, but we also need to speak to the fact that the proposal is out of character for the area.
Can I just follow up, CEO Cook? Not familiar with, can you just sort of explain what that phrase out of character, or maybe our land use planning consultant, what are the implications of that at this moment in this meeting with this resolution in front of us?
Thank you, Your Worship. What that would mean in this case is that the council is more comfortable with it staying as a residential use as opposed to this type of commercial use into this part of the neighborhood. That's what that would mean.
Thank you, our planning consultant. Councillor Schweinbenz, you have a final comment?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I just wanted to make the point again that I hope the applicants can work with staff, with our planner, to get done what I think they really want to get done, and that is a guest house. And I think the community would support that without too many changes on the property, but I'm not so sure it would support, as I said, an unrestricted commercial upzoning. So I hope that we can work with these fine folks to help them make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion? The motion is as recommended from the planning consultants. Do you want it read out again? And the motion includes directing the proponent to prepare the reports in A to G.
It might be two stages. I'm not sure if we need to approve the rescinding first. I'm not, I just want to make sure we vote on the right thing here. There's a rescinding, and then there's, do we give it second reading as amended?
I think we have the motion is as a single whole at this point. So that's the motion on the floor. Call the vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? And that motion fails. At this point, I would ask maybe for a little bit of guidance from CEO Cook. With the motion failing, I don't want to leave it in limbo for the proponents, so if there's a subsequent motion that could be recommended as to how to proceed from here, it might be helpful. Corporate Officer.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I would recommend a motion that zoning amendment bylaw number 1228/2025 be defeated.
Could I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on that. And I think my one question is, when we defeat that, what's the effect of that in plain language? How does that leave things?
Thank you. The effect of that is that the application is rejected. There's no further zoning amendment for that property. Our planning consultant can jump in if I'm incorrect. I believe the applicant can reapply in a year. Alternatively, they can substantially revise the application and resubmit prior to that 1-year timeframe.
Thank you for the explanation. Discussion on the motion to defeat. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. So when corporate officer, when you say that they can substantially change their application, can they just go after the guest house idea in the future and make that a restricted upgrade, if you will, to what they have now?
I see several hands. I'll go to our planning consultant, Mr. Cossey, on what constitutes a substantial amendment.
Thank you, Your Worship. That was, when we receive an application again, we bring it back to this table or to this room, and we say to council, yes, it has been substantially changed, or no, it has not, but that's a decision of the council, and we will give our reasons as to why it has or why it has not been substantially changed.
Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Cossi. So we are the determiners of what is substantial. So if the proponents refile, if this motion passes, then we would make that decision. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor
Me,
Vital.
just, I'm a little unclear on what we would be voting on. Is that to rescind the draft bylaw amendments? Is that correct?
Maybe I could ask the corporate officer to reread the motion that's on the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to Councillor Vital. There's no need to rescind any readings. If the motion is defeated at second reading, it can remain that way. It will just be marked as defeated and no further action will be taken on the motion. So the motion currently on the floor is to defeat the zoning amendment bylaw number 1228.
Thank you.
Thank you, corporate officer and Councillor Vital. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I just want to remind council, I just looked at the map again, that there is municipality-owned parkland adjacent to this. It's a landlocked block of parkland. So I think it would, I think we should all be encouraged to work together to help each other out and try to get something done with this property that both helps out the applicants and the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Yes, it is village-owned parkland beside that lot. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries, and that is defeated. Item 17 on our agenda is new business from Councillor Faccio, who can't be here this evening, but was informed that Councillor Jackson would speak to this. Can I turn this over to you, Councillor Jackson?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I'm bringing this forward for Councillor Fascio because I'm a proponent of retreats. On the many years that we had them in Harrison, all of them were a great success. The first one we tried was in the village. It was not a success. We had one person come continually all the time. We didn't get done what we needed to do. And we had a huge agenda back in 2005, 2006, with the infrastructure here and all that to go with it. So we next 3 times we left the village, we went to another location. Mission was one, New Westminster was one, that sort of thing. And 2 nights, 3 days, very, very hard work. The whole council at that particular time gelled together as an effective team like we have right now, a very effective team. And I'm recommending that we give serious thought to that. I know Councillor Fascio is a real proponent of this, so I'd like you to think very, very hard about it. Come to your own decision. So whatever happens, of course, I will support, but I would like to see that come to fruition. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Jackson is moving the new business. Is there a seconder to that motion? That is seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. I see lots of hands. I have something to say myself. I'll start with Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Without a doubt, council retreats are valuable tools. When held at the beginning or midway through a term, it supports a new council through transition, training, strategic planning, and orientation. A retreat midterm allows for a review of council's strategic plan and the progress to date. They set priorities and give our staff direction for the following years. Council has already reviewed our strategic plan, and staff are focusing on delivering what can realistically be achieved in the final year of this term. We must also consider the costs and staff resources to hold a retreat, at this time in the term. We could very well view a retreat at this stage as unnecessary. And our residents may very well ask why we are spending funds on a retreat when we are in the final year. I think these are legitimate questions and concerns. Instead of a retreat, I believe council should focus on completing realistically the priorities we have already identified during this year. Therefore, for these reasons, I will not be supporting the motion. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Last year, we went through this. It was a different circumstances. I think for a couple of days, Mayor Tallon, you and I had a consultant and giving us some education and sort of a blueprint on success. And I think on the third day, we all five of us got together with staff to talk about priorities. And I found it very, very valuable from a learning point of view, and also to get us all in line on the same priorities. And strategic planning is so important. I come from the corporate world, and we would do this every quarter. We would fly to a place and hunker down for 3 or 4 days and think about our plans. And I am a big proponent of that. So I'm in favor of this, but I've got some questions. And I think I might have asked this today, and corporate officer, I apologize, I didn't pay attention to the answers necessarily. But what are is there precedent? Do other municipalities do this? I just want to make sure that we're not doing anything against the community charter. Are other municipalities doing this? Will we be within our, I want to make sure we're not going to be doing anything that we shouldn't be doing in terms of voting and that sort of thing. So can you give us some assurances that other municipalities do this and that we're not going to be working outside of the bylaws that we adhere to?
Corporate officer, can you speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. It's difficult to know what other municipalities do. I believe that they hold larger sessions at the beginning of a council term to kind of set those priorities and strategic planning. How they do it, I'm not entirely sure. What really is the most important part of this is what constitutes a meeting. So if you're advancing the business of the village, it's very likely to be a meeting if you have quorum, if you have an agenda, if it's a formal setting. The only time it's not normally a meeting, considered a meeting, is when it's a training or orientation session for the elected officials. That wouldn't be something that's typically open to the public. And the topic of discussion will dictate whether the meeting is to be closed to the public or not, regardless of whether the meeting is held in village boundaries or elsewhere. So it would have to be kind of split up between what the topics of discussion are and whether there are any implications under Section 90 of the Community Charter to close the meeting, but most of a retreat would be considered a council meeting.
Thank you, corporate officer. Councillor Schweinbenz.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I'm in support of doing a 2 to 3 day retreat. I don't think we necessarily need to go anywhere. I know it's very valuable to get out of our current setting and our current environment. I don't know if it's warranted for us to spend all that money. Hopefully we can hunker down with staff and with ourselves if we have this retreat, maybe somewhere locally or close by at least, so we don't have to spend too much money on hotels and meals. But I would really welcome the ability to get together for 2 or 3 days with staff to set our priorities. We have 1 year left, and we've got to make things happen. And if we don't have a plan or a blueprint, then it's not going to happen. So I'm in favor of the motion generally, and I trust that staff will keep us within the legal boundaries of bylaws and that sort of thing. And if we need to have it on camera for 8 hours, if people have nothing else to do but to watch us for 8 hours, then they can do that. We can, as long as we can speak freely, and I think it'd be very valuable.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. I'm not in favor of the motion for several reasons. If I recall, Councillor Fascio, when he presented this as a new business or notice of motion, he was speaking of retreat, and that word can mean several different things. And I think the intention was to exclude the public and be outside of Harrison Hot Springs. The motion as printed here in our agenda doesn't speak to that, and it's that lack of clarity that I don't want any misunderstandings. For myself, there could be value in having a council meeting, and that would be open to the public unless we're dealing with matters that fall under the matters to exclude, and we have processes well established on how to exclude the public if there's matters dealing with the normal, the land, the labor, and the legal. I think if our council is to talk about the priorities and things this council would like to focus on for the next 12 years, it should be done in Harrison Hot Springs. I heard recently in council meetings how our council chambers are perfectly appropriate for council meetings. So I don't see any problem with having a council meeting to discuss the priorities, committee of the whole, or whatever is appropriate to talk about those things. And I don't like the ambiguity about what a retreat is. I think we need to be very clear. If council is going to meet as a council meeting, then the default is it's open to the public unless there's a reason to exclude consistent with the charter. And I'm strongly in favor of having the meetings in Harrison Hot Springs. And we'll just put it blunt. If council's will is to have a retreat or some meeting outside of the village, I'll participate remotely. I can see other ways to spend limited resources in the village in other ways rather than for travel and other expenses associated with hosting meetings outside the village. So I'll be voting against this motion. I would be in favor of a motion that would say we should have a council meeting and call it a council meeting before Christmas to talk about the priorities for the remaining term, and have that as a council meeting, and that has that meaning that it would be generally open to the public. Any other comments on the motion as presented here?
Mayor
Councillor Schweinbetz.
Mayor Talon, would it be appropriate then to amend this to strike the word retreat? When I think of a retreat, I don't think we need to. That doesn't necessarily imply that we're going somewhere. We can stay here and have a retreat and retreat to ourselves in our own company and with company with staff and have 2 days of productive and fruitful meetings. I think we are all in favor of getting together for a couple of days and prioritizing with staff. I think we're hung up on the word retreat, so maybe we should amend this motion to clarify that a longer meeting is required and we stay local.
I might just add, I'll just respond to it. If this motion is defeated, I will propose a motion, something to the effect of that council directs staff to plan for a committee of the whole meeting to discuss priorities for the village for the next year, and have that scheduled in Harrison Hot Springs, hopefully in the next 6 weeks or so. So I'll call the vote on the motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? Councillor Jackson in favor, opposed? The motion fails. I'll be good to my word, and I will propose a motion that we direct staff to schedule a council meeting, a committee of the whole, whatever's appropriate, a council meeting in the next 6 weeks to discuss the priorities for the final year of this term, and schedule that meeting to occur in Harrison Hot Springs. Seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on that? Councillor Schweinbetz.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to staff, are you confident that we could fill a couple of days with a structured program of what we want to talk about and priorities? Do you feel that we maybe need a facilitator to guide us through all this? How do we have any thinking on how that would work?
Corporate Officer?
Thank you, through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. I think what we would probably do is canvass council for some ideas on what to discuss, what they'd like to see for agenda items. That way we can make sure that anything that should be discussed in open is done so, and discussed in closed is also done so. I'm advised by our Chief Financial Officer that we do have budget available if council would like to direct staff to seek some quotes from a facilitator to kind of guide that discussion. I'll leave that up to council.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. I think if we all submit our agenda items to staff, if this motion passes, then staff can assemble that into a coherent agenda and then make some recommendations back to us whether or not a facilitator would be of benefit. So make that decision when we have an agenda for the council meeting. And perhaps we should all do that, send our agenda items this week so we can, if there is a discussion on the agendas, we can talk about that at the next council meeting in 2 weeks. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor, no further discussion. I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion? And that carries. Notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion this evening? I don't see any. Item 19 on our agenda is question period. Items relevant to the agenda. Are there any questions from members of the public tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. Regarding the last item on the agenda, without me making any comment on the result, I would just like to ask Council if you were aware that the Ombudsman of BC conducted an investigation into a Harrison Council retreat that was held in Mission and wrote a very critical report on that practice. And I'd just like to refer Council to that report. I'm sure it could be dragged up from the village files, but it's very instructive as to how you should or should not conduct such things. And I'd just like to ask Council to consider that, having made the decision that you did tonight, which I think is the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Are there any questions from anyone on Zoom participating remotely tonight?
If you have a question on Zoom, please raise your hand. There are no questions, Mayor Tallon. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. With that, we're at item 20, which is adjournment. And I think Councillor Fascio, I can hear him in my right ear, but someone's going to have to speak for him tonight. Moved by Councillor Schweinbenz to adjourn and seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion, all in favor of adjourning, and we are adjourned. And hopefully a bit of the Blue Jays is still on TV. Thank you all.
2-1 Mariners. Not very good right now. Oh, make that 3-1.